one of the things that I'm doing currently is listening to stuff first thing in the morning in the shower. I have a little, I don't know what they call it, a Bluetooth speaker, I guess, that I just run in the shower while I'm getting ready first thing in the morning. And I've been playing my music first thing in the morning just to get a sense of writing lyrics and this kind of stuff. The lyric writing part is actually probably 5/6 of the time frame. It's a substantial portion of it. Anyway, I was listening to the music in the shower. My wife came in, as she does sometimes in the morning, and said to me, "Oh, you're listening to some old jazz." And I said, "No, actually, this is for the new CD that I'm working on." It was The Last Monkey Standing, actually the named track for the new collection of music. I call it a CD. I'm so old. Anyway, and my wife said to me, "Oh, this is really good. You should put this together just as music. It doesn't need lyrics." I thought to myself, "No, it doesn't need lyrics. Why do I go through this process, which most of the pain actually comes through putting out the lyrics, when I could just put out music?" And a phenomenon that's happened this week, actually, I logged on to Record Union, which is the aggregation company I use, I guess, to put out music. And I made more in the last month through music than I made probably in the past 2 years, actually, in writing. I said the past year, but it's probably closer to 2 years worth. So while this is not even beer money, I guess you'd call it grocery money since I'm not a drinker. But while this is grocery level money, it's still grocery level money. And my thought about this is probably the passive kind of trickle income thing, which I could very easily make more of, right? Just create more music. It's actually fun and cathartic. And now I can log into an account and see that actually a number of people are listening to it and enjoying it as well. I should probably optimize towards doing something which is less abrasive. I've gone through this whole, I don't know what one would say, this period where I've been very critical associated with spoken word over audio, and just that I don't want to, I don't know, enter a domain which is not really a genre that I'm interested in participating in. So my wife said, this is old jazz. And I was like, okay, so why don't I call it jazz music? Which I've kind of thought about anyway, and just I remove the beats and various other things and just release it as jazz. So the Last Monkey Standing, or Last Monkey Standing as it is all just music. And it's coming out on October 15th, which is nominally the anniversary of the 43rd year, I guess, I've been on the planet, by my 42nd birthday. And that all seems to make rational sense. And it takes a huge burden off me as well to think of words. Like, the music itself is enough fun, thank you very much. So yes, this burden has been lifted literally in the past day off my shoulders, and it means that I can actually put out more music, because finding words for the music took a lot longer, vastly longer, actually, than writing the music down and performing it. So this is a new phase in a certain aspect of my production, that I can record and put out music far faster than I had historically. I mean, when I say far faster than I had historically, we're talking about literally decades previously. So this is all interesting, and whether or not it has listeners, whether or not people find it interesting, and, whether it develops an audience is quite secondary to my actual production of it. For me, it's more catharsis than anything, and if people stumble across it, I'm curious, and I probably should go through this and work out whether Spotify's injecting my music in poor unsuspecting listeners' audio feeds, which would be very strange indeed, but maybe that's the case. I don't really know how I'm actually making my money through this thing. It just appears that there's money turning up in an account on a monthly basis, and if I continue to produce the music and money continues to turn up in the account, it's quite an interesting hobby. I've not really had hobbies that have produced incomes previously, unless, of course, you can noble ape in some long-term sense. So, yeah, producing music for money is a very interesting thing. Not really something that I considered up until now, but let's see where it goes. And it's one of these curious things. I now refer to the alleged comedian just as Jimmy Savile in my own thinking. I think it's the easiest way to refer to him. But yeah, it's an interesting byproduct of this Jimmy Savile business that music is being produced now in a quantity and of a relative quality. I mean, some of it, you'll be surprised when you hear the music, but actually probably about 2/3 of it I don't put out. So it's my best third that is coming out. Now, some of the stuff I'm putting out is stuff that previously had beats behind it and things like that. I mean, I've basically pulled all that back and just put it out in instrumental form. So some of it does have elements which are clearly not traditional composition and jazz, but some of it is very clearly self-identifiable as jazz, so I think it'll work. Let's see. And the ability to find funny names and funny photos and these kind of things is also very interesting. I went to the Creative Commons Media Bank for cover art associated with The Last Monkey Standing. It's a piece of a very particular photograph, and I'm wondering if anyone would ever know what the photograph actually is. So that's probably more a question out to the deeper diving nerd historians amongst us, that if anyone could identify the photograph, be interesting. I mean, I'm interested to see if people know what the photograph is. But that is Last Monkey Standing, which is a series of recordings dating for probably about 2 years now. I mean, Saturday, which is the opening track on it, I wrote more than 2 years ago. Saturday was originally going to be in the first discussion, the 20 Years of Noble Ape CD, so I must have written it more than 2 years ago. And some of the other stuff, I mean, what's called Against the World was the background music for June 13th, This is Noble Ape. And that is a piece of music that I have had a lot of fun with, but used it very specifically for that track originally, and then thought, well, I might as well put it out in its instrumental form. It's not that different than the June 13th track, but it is in a more orchestrated form, I guess that's what one would say. And it is the focus as opposed to, the words and all the other stuff that went along with the June 13th track. And, there are lots of little bits and pieces. The abridged version of the Left and Light Suite, I was going to put out the full Left and Light Suite, which is considerably more discordant and goes on for considerably longer. And Last Monkey Standing, the actual track as opposed to the album, has an introduction which I was originally going to cut off and then just have The Last Monkey Standing. But I actually really like the introduction, and I like the lead-in to it, which is a bit of a, I don't know, you're allowed maybe 2 minutes worth of eccentric lead into an actual track. And probably, if I was to release this in the future, I would put a cut in. So you'd have the intro and then Last Monkey Standing on its own. But it works as it is. I mean, I think this is a format that I'm exploring now with a certain degree of maturity. I mean, maybe I'm the only person producing this kind of stuff, but I need to find through Spotify, perhaps, what genres I'm being linked to here, what positive reinforcement to genres, at least, I'm being linked to. Because, it's curious. It's curious now putting out music as music's form, as opposed to some other form that I was putting out music as a part of. And it was interesting that it came through my wife as well. It was incredibly liberating. I mean, really, this is the past day and a half of my thinking. So if I seem a bit scattershot associated with talking about it or justifying it, it's very much because I guess I've had the same thought. I've just never actually exacted it. I've realized that I've had to fit into some other genre which wasn't really the genre that I was playing into. Now I have a genre of lesser note. It's something that I feel comfortable in. And my feeling is, if I could put out a similar length of music, I'm not sure what the total is. I should have worked out what the total... I mean, it's in the order of 30 minutes. It's probably, give or take, 5 minutes on 30 minutes. If I put out 30 minutes every 6 months, I could actually get quite an interesting collection together. And in terms of the catharsis, this is really 4 solid multi-track recordings worth of playing, then just edited and touched up over time. And that's actually quite comfortable. I mean, that's really a couple of days over a weekend, a couple of weekends. So, really very easy to do in that sense of things, and certainly fits in well with podcasts and various other things. My anticipation is that I may record an audiobook in the near future as well. I'm very interested in exploring this medium, and audiobooks are now my primary audio consumption. I've really, in the past 6 months, and I think I recorded a long funk about this, I've really gone off podcasts. The whole genre of podcasting with the pre-roll ads and all the other nonsense, I don't know, I represent something in podcasting which my wife points out is 12, 15 years old now, but I still continue to keep this form alive, and maybe I'm just a dinosaur in this thing. I'm getting more out of audiobooks currently, and I'm actually reading books which have been on my shelves for a long period of time. I read, if I can read it from here, I don't think it's The Last Days of Hitler by Hugh Trevor Roper. I've had that on my shelf for at least 3 years. I bought it secondhand, and I've never read it. So I finally got the audiobook version, and now I've read it in audiobook form. And there are a few books that I have that don't exist in audiobook form, and certainly none of my writing exists in audiobook form. So what I'm thinking of doing is redressing that in some regard. I think it would take me a solid day to do some of my writing in decent audiobook form. And it also would take some practice and this kind of stuff. So I'm leaning towards that thing. But having put it out, and again, we're talking about pennies. Pennies per playback in terms of the, revenue through this. But pennies per playback add up over time. And it's nice to have just little trickles coming through associated with stuff which I've previously done for nothing. Now, I don't think this is going to impact my podcast at all. My podcast stream is always there and always present. But it is an interesting way of reconnecting, I guess, with some notion of survival through the stuff that I do. And in the medium term, it means more music, which I can't complain about. Anyway, these are my somewhat ramshackle thoughts associated with this thing that I've decided to record in podcast form.